Where's
The worst show.
How do you know you're not looking at her?
You think I'm a fool? I know you're not
The worst show.
None of you!
Velma?
So that is his name.
Velma.
Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary!
What a shocker. A terrible trailer to a show that looked terrible is in fact terrible. Who could have seen that one coming? It's almost like Hollywood is pretty consistent and predictable these days. So yeah, let's talk about Velma. For context, I watched the first 6 episodes because there was a chance, a microscopic imaginary chance, but a chance nonetheless it could have gotten better after the first couple episodes. While I did not count on it happening, I decided to give the show a fair chance and purposely avoided watching any videos, reviewing or talking about it so I could go into it with a relatively open mind that wasn't already tainted by the trailer.
If I can't convince people I didn't kill Brenda, I'm going to be arrested.
I know, but I also know how to find out who did kill Brenda. I think it has something to do with drugs, which I hate.
Wow.
And yeah, it was exactly what the trailers promised, so let's talk about why this show is so terrible. But first, let's go over the positives, because there are some. Granted, I can only count them on one hand, but at least it's something. First, I don't mind the art style. It's a little generic in some spots, and obviously the designs for the main group aren't good considering how much they changed them. But it has more effort put into it than a lot of other adult animated comedies. Like seriously, look me in the eyes and tell me that you think that modern Family Guy, Brickleback, Paradise PD, and Hoops have a more appealing art style than Velma. If you do, I'm calling your bluff right now.
No! Just fooled! You fools! I need that kidney!
There's also some pretty cool hallucinations from Velma that was actually pretty decent. My hat's off to the artists working on this show. I hope that they can find better projects to work on because the rest of the show sure doesn't deserve them. Anyway, I've spoken my piece. Now let's talk about literally every other aspect of this show because good God, this show is awful. This first opening joke really sets the tone for how the rest of the show is going to play out.
Brenda? Ugh. Ugh. This school sucks.
Why must you hurt me in this way?
What's that? You didn't laugh? Well, no. That's basically my response to every joke in this show. The unfunny jokes range from sex jokes that only a 5-year-old would find humorous, jokes about how all men are just the worst and or idiots, especially the white ones, and meta humor. So much goddamn meta humor. And just an overall sense of mean-spiritedness.
Well, it's a lie. According to her own journal, Daphne is so messed up that she has a daily session with our school guidance counselor, Lamont, to discuss her issues.
2 seconds later.
Oh no.
Which is mostly transferred to us via the painful meta humor, because instead of writing an actual good show, the meta humor acknowledges that this is a show, so it's immune to criticism because we're in on the joke, wink wink.
2 things, okay? Shut up.
Meta humor has become just a lazy cheap excuse for actual jokes and writing. That's it. The only good recent meta humor is the teaser for Invincible Season 2, which I am very hyped for that to release.
Well, I've been busy writing, designing, storyboarding, voice acting, key posing, in-betweening, cleaning up, color slapping, comping the whole thing and all that for, roughly thousands of shots, so it's kind of a lot.
Sure, yeah. Although like 90% of that, if I'm being honest, sounds completely made up.
That's before we even get into the characters, which are all terrible, with the absolute worst being Velma herself, who has absolutely no redeeming features about her whatsoever. She's a narcissist, egotistical, abusive, manipulative, two-faced, hypocritical piece of shit. and that's being relatively tame on my end. An example of this is when Velma knows that Norville likes her and will do anything for her, so in several episodes, she will manipulate him when he has a girlfriend and tries to steal him from her because no one can have him except her. Because she's just the worst.
Where'd you get that? Why didn't you tell me I have a bump on my beak? I never noticed a bump. Do not patronize me! If there is something wrong with me that I don't know about, then you owe it to me as my best friend to tell me. All right. You're a narcissist? You're a sociopath? You're probably a psychopath. You're paranoid, sexist, and you make fun of the elderly. Those are just quirks!
Another example is when she's trying to go up into a cave in a later episode, and she purposely fakes a panic attack in order to get Daphne to kiss her, as well as to manipulate her into doing what Velma wants.
I'm having a deadly hallucination!
I thought those were over!
Me too! Being so close to finding my mom must have triggered it. But go shoot your calendar. I'm sure I won't have another one in the woods and die all alone.
And that's why this is your fault, Velma. You're so possessive, you faked a hallucination just to keep me from hanging out with Olive.
A big aspect of both Velma as a character and as a show is that she takes great pride in being woke and a powerful feminist character, when ironically she treats other women horribly. And it's not like Mindy Kaling's voice acting is helping. It's just this constant tone, so when she has these panic attacks, she's going, "Ah, no, I'm having a panic attack."
Try to make me laugh. No, try something else. Anything, quick. Oh God, my heart. Oh God, my heart.
Yeah, that was not an exaggeration. Also, gotta love how much pride she takes in the fact that she created this show. I mean, listen, Mindy, I've taken literal shit I'd be more proud of than if I made this show. It's also very evident that Mindy and the rest of the creators of the show are clearly venting some frustration and personal issues they had in high school throughout the show instead of going to actual therapy, because being a rich, privileged member of Hollywood is just so hard. I mean, come on, people, we have to sympathize for them. Otherwise, who else will take pity upon them?
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and fuck off.
I love this boy.
I actually cheered when Velma got hit by a car and smashed into a wall. She is that unlikable. The series genuinely feels like a parody, it's that bad. When I first heard that people were making up conspiracies about how this show was created by the right wing to make a terrible parody of woke shows, I thought it was ridiculous, but after seeing this show, I can honestly see how people think that, because this genuinely feels like a parody of modern Hollywood projects. It's that bad. Unfortunately, it is not smart enough. Since we are talking about wokeness, I want to say that this show isn't terrible because it has gay and lesbian characters. It's terrible because it's incredibly unfunny, has confusing world building, lazy compensating meta humor, a general sense of mean-spiritedness, and characters that are just the worst that happen to be these different sexualities. A show with progressive issues can still be good. For example, Arcane, which is an incredibly awesome series that I highly recommend you check out. It's a show that has lesbian and gay relationships, a diverse cast of different races, and strong independent female characters that are actually great characters, and not just a strong female with no personality or likable traits. Arcane has all the same things that Velma praises itself on, but never once feels preachy or full of itself. Arcane first and foremost strives to entertain and tell a compelling story, not lecture us about modern social issues and how we need to do better.
You've got to do better, Senator.
That was so terrible, I think you gave me cancer.
When the industry that creates these shows are in absolutely no place to take the moral high ground, as well as don't practice what they preach, because that would cost a lot of money on their part. So I always find it ironic when people try to convince themselves that Hollywood is an ally of theirs for various social movements, when in fact they could literally give no f**ks about any of these, because when push comes to shove, they will pick money over anything else. This show also seems to be really insistent that animation is for kids.
All our classmates are idiots, so let's assume they're high.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah, it's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
Ah, boy, here we go.
Yeah, the irony that this show thinks it's better and smarter than cartoons is not lost on me in the slightest. Now, it's no secret that animation is disrespected in Hollywood.
I always say that our fans and our audiences put their kids to bed at night after watching Pinocchio or Dumbo or Little Mermaid, they're probably not going to tune into another animated movie. They want something for them.
Because animated films make up some of our most formative movie experiences as kids. So many kids watch these movies over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
I see some parents out there know exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, shove it up your ass with a spoonful of sugar, you supercalifragilisticexpialidocious bitch!
A fun fact, the cheapest and simplest animation still requires more effort than the cheapest live-action shot. Even garbage animation still requires some level of skill and work. Also, animation is not a genre. It is a medium that is used to tell a story. Animation is also much more expressive than live action. Heck, Arcane's animation makes you wonder, why don't we just use animation when it's seemingly better than live action? It allows for a lot more creative action scenes as well as a lot more expressive facial features. I mean, only the best of actors could match the expressive detail that animation has to offer. Velma is truly an amalgamation of everything wrong with modern Hollywood, and I think that's why so many people hate this show. Although I will say this, Velma is not a new kind of terrible. It's the same kind of terrible that many have pointed out in other shows and movies in recent years, yet for some reason everyone acts like this is a new thing. Heck, some act like this is the first show to do all these things wrong, when that's simply not the case. Hollywood is predictable. I mean extremely predictable nowadays. Heck, I've predicted the quality of certain shows and specific problems that they would have in them, as well as how the media would respond to any of these criticisms. This isn't meant to be a flex, it just comes down to recognizing a basic pattern. Hollywood can't really hide their poorly made shows and movies behind trailers anymore, because that trailer is still reflective of the product we will get if you know what to look for. Velma was exactly how I thought it would be because the trailer reflected it. So I wasn't really surprised by the quality of it, because it was exactly what I expected and nothing more. Now, this isn't me defending Velma. Heck, I'm glad so many people are starting to see modern Hollywood for the creatively dry, ethically compromising landfill that it is. Okay, so this is me coming back to the script after viewing the most recent episodes 7 and 8, which finally broke me. I thought that the previous episodes were terrible, and I think the show deserves the hate, but it personally didn't bother me in the way that other shows of similar problems and quality have had. But congratulations, Velma, you broke me. You win the gold star of because good god, this show is terrible. I always thought it was on the same level of quality as everyone else, but now I understand the level of anger that everyone has for this show. Okay, back to the original draft of the script. To end this little video, I will say it's almost impressive how Velma incorporated everything wrong with modern Hollywood in its show. Sure, many shows have had many of these elements, and some before have had all of them as well, but Velma somehow managed to reboot a beloved and nostalgic property that it clearly does not like and actively seeks to both tear down and belittle the original in order to prop itself up, as well as to insult anyone who dare like that original property. It also has enough unfunny humor to feed every starving child in Africa if it was food. That is, if it didn't leave you feeling empty inside. It acts as a personal therapy session for a rich, privileged actor as well as the other higher-ups that have what I call living in California problems. Empty and poorly implemented social commentary, if you can even call it that, not to mention representation that actively does more harm than good, constant digs at animation and how anyone that likes it must be a child, despite the effort and craft that is put into it. And just like that insufferable prick who think he's hot shit, this show believes it's a smart, witty, well-crafted show with some kind of substance, when in fact it lacks no positive traits, aside when I mention the animation. And finally, a character so unlikable that not even a jury of the most loving and understanding of people would in fact find her guilty of being just the worst douchebag in the history of douchebags. Yes, let it not be understated that Velma is one of, if not the most unlikable character I have ever seen in a TV show. And the impressive part is, with each episode, she gets even worse. 90% of the time, a problem that she is in was caused by her. But she in fact cannot own up to it and instead reflects it on everyone else, blaming everyone. And she even manipulates others into believing that it was her fault too. She has never actually apologized once in this show. I will say, it is very impressive. I'm Cameron Facer, I hope you enjoyed this video. Spank all the buttons, have a great day, stay safe out there, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.